And it's the same thing with the carnival squash. I just cut them straight in half, and it makes like a bowl out of it. It makes this nice, attractive bowl. But you know what? When I see the attractive bowl like that, when I cut them open, I start thinking, what can I put in there? And one of the great ingredients of fall is apples. Let's get a green apple, a nice tart Granny Smith apple. And I start to peel it, just get the skin off it a little bit, thinking that I can roast this apple along with the carnival squash and create those two fall flavors together. So dicing the apple, I get it into consistent pieces, and I'm going to go ahead and fill the carnival squash with the apple on a sheet pan and get it ready for the oven. Alright, the first thing I can pull out is this carnival squash with the apples baked inside. This has been in here for 45 minutes or so. Next, we have those carnival squash. Remember the one we cut in half? We scooped out these really pretty carnival squash that nobody knows what to do with. It was the one that I was playing with at the beginning. Well, again, these have been roasted but filled with apples. So now my goal is to get another bowl, and let's pull all the squash and the apples out, just like I was doing with the butternut squash just a minute ago, scraping it all out of the shell. And without getting any of the skin, just go ahead and scoop out all the squash. Nope, don't want the skin. Get rid of that. Along with the apples. So the apples, actually somebody asked me today, my friend Paige asked me today if I had a squash recipe the kids would eat. And this was what I told her, is to roast some squash with some apples, because it'll give it some real sweetness. And of course, it's natural food, so you don't have to worry about what you're feeding your children. Being able to cook by basic cooking methods means that you never have to worry about trying to figure out what's for dinner ever again, because you can just look in your pantry. You can go ahead and create something from the ingredients that you have on hand, rather than trying to look for a recipe that has the ingredients that you do have on hand. I hear more stories from people, there's our apple and our carnival squash, more stories from people that tell me, oh, I've got this great recipe and I ran out and got all the ingredients and it called for saffron or some kind of spice, and it's 2 years later and the saffron is still sitting on my shelf. Don't go to the grocery store to fulfill recipes. Go to your pantry and create recipes. That's what cooking by basic cooking methods is. So here's our apples and our carnival squash. This I do want to puree, and I have my Cuisinart here. This I do want to puree because I want to make it really, really, really smooth. So let's add that to the Cuisinart. And the Cuisinart starts pureeing it pretty well, but it's still pretty stiff for what I want to use it for. That looks a little bit more like mashed potatoes. I need some kind of broth, some kind of liquid. Well, I've already told you I was poaching pumpkin in this poaching liquid back here, so I've got a flavor. I've got a flavorful broth. It's pumpkin juice, or pumpkin broth, if you will, and just a ladle or so of this is going to loosen up my puree so that it is workable for what I want to do with it. Being able to make flavorful liquids, being able to make stocks and sauces is another important skill in the kitchen. There, that's much better. That's exactly the way I want it. Being able to make sauces, flavorful liquids, is an important skill, and it also saves you a tremendous amount of money. Here's our carnival squash and granny apple soup. This is delicious on a cold fall evening. Excellent puree of squash that was cooked in a dry cooking fashion.